Mariners win the series, but don't get the sweep of the Braves. We'll tell you how it went down coming up here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. This is Titan Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners postgame show brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use the promo code LockedOnMLB. That's all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. Thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. Mariners win the series but lose the finale 5-2 to the Braves this afternoon. We're going to get the ugly of today's loss out of the way, and then we'll look on the brighter side a little later on, talk about last night's game, of course. But let's start with Mitch Haniger. Horrific day for Haniger. 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Cost the Mariners at least a couple runs in the outfield. Colby, I know you have some thoughts, so floor is yours.
It's time to end the Mitch Haniger everyday player experiment. It was stupid to begin with. And hey, you know what? Mitch really helped keep this offense afloat the first 10 days or so when everybody else was struggling. Great. His defense is a liability, and that's being generous. It's a liability right now. He's cost the Mariners at least 3 or 4 runs in this homestand alone by not getting to balls that a good or even decent right fielder gets to, by flat out dropping a fly ball today, a routine play, and he just flat out clanked off his gloves. So Haniger is a liability defensively. He has not turned in an acceptable performance over the last 3 weeks or so at the plate either. Not enough to warrant playing every single day. Right now, Luke Raley gives you a better shot at an offensive performance of some kind than Mitch Haniger. And yeah, Haniger hit the grand slam on day one of the road trip or the homestand. Cool. Awesome. What did he do after that? Meaningless single here. I actually thought yesterday he had a pretty decent game. Like, he went to the opposite field twice and hit the ball hard with authority. I was like, oh, good. Maybe this is Haniger turning the corner, because if he's not hitting, he is a worthless player. He doesn't help you on the bases. He hurts you in the outfield. And if he's not hitting, he is a zero tool player. Like, there's nothing about, he's not walking. He's not going to draw walks, right? He's not going to steal bases. He's not even a great situational hitter. He strikes out too much when he's bad. He doesn't hit the ball hard enough with regularity. He doesn't help you defensively. He's not an everyday player. Part of this is because Canzone got hurt. But at the end of the day, you need somebody who can field a fly ball in right field. If he's not going to hit at all, you need somebody who can field a fly ball. And Haniger today didn't hit at all. He didn't play defense. He was as close to being a negative 1-win player as you can possibly get in one day. Like, he was awful. And at least when Julio Rodriguez struggles, he helps you defensively and on the bases. At least when Cal Raleigh struggles, he helps you defensively and on the bases. But when you look at a guy like Mitch Haniger, and you could also throw somebody like Ty France into this mix, if they don't hit, they are a bad player. They shouldn't be in the lineup. Same goes for Mitch Garver. So, it's unfortunate right now. Seattle's kind of trying to piece it together. They have a bunch of guys who aren't really living up to their expectations. But Haniger is the one who hurts you the most when he's not swinging the bat, because he can't give you anything. At least Ty France gives you average first base defense. Like, at the very least, he gives you that. At least Mitch Garver gives you the possibility that he can catch, once or twice. Like, at least that is there. Haniger's not hitting. He's a bad player. End of sentence. Defense is going to be important for this ball club until they start to hit. And right now, Haniger is a net negative player for you. So, right. Yeah, it's really hard to watch. And I get it. They don't have a ton of options. But how about you meet somewhere in the middle and you say, hey, you know what, Mitch Haniger, we have a day off on Thursday. This is a great opportunity to get Haniger 2 days off in a row. Like, how often is he going to have that chance without hurting us? You already had the series in hand. Very clearly, you wanted to rest some of your guys today. Mitch Garver apparently was not available today because there were a couple opportunities against the lefty for him to go up there and get a big at bat and possibly get a big knock and get you back in this game. They weren't going to use him today. That was very clear. So I just wonder, like, what's the thought process behind not giving Mitch Haniger 2 days off in a row to kind of try and rejuvenate something? And then, hey, you know what? Why not give him Friday off too? Get him back in there over the weekend. Like, you had an opportunity to sit Haniger for a couple days at least and only miss one game of production from that, and you can live with Luke Raley against Alette. Like,
you can still do that. To be fair, you can do it. You know, you got the baked in off day tomorrow, and then you got a righty on the mound for the Astros on Friday and Ronel Blanco. So you could sit Haniger against him.
Could, but you know,
they won't.
They
won't.
And so it doesn't. Like, I understand not wanting Luke Raley to face Chris Sale. Sale is nasty, particularly against other lefties. Yeah. Like, I understand that. But at some point, you just have to take one. And how about this? How about Rivas just plays shortstop and Dylan Moore plays right field and Haggerty plays left? You can still do those sorts of things. So I don't understand. To me, if you're going to insist on Haniger playing every day in right field, Cade Marlowe needs to be on this roster, because I need a defensive replacement that I could stick out there and feel good about in the later innings. Because if I'm not going to stick Dylan Moore out there, like, what is Rivas's role on this roster right now? He doesn't have one. He's just there. He's taking up space as a 26 guy. They won't use him. He's gotten one start in the week he's been up.
Right.
He doesn't pinch run. He doesn't, play defense. Like, what is his role here? So go get a guy who can actually play the outfield for you defensively. Somebody who you like enough to give
go get Brian Bliss, who can play some shortstop, and then you can use Dylan Moore in the outfield.
Right. You can't just keep on forcing Mitch Haniger out there and then not have a viable replacement on the bench. And right now they don't, because they're not willing to use Luke Raley against lefties. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. And look, the rest of the Mariners offense wasn't good enough today either.
No, they weren't awful though today. They really weren't.
They were okay.
They struck out 12 times, which is an ongoing issue for this offense. They were only 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Jorge Polanco had both of those hits, but they out-hit the Braves by 4 hits today? Yeah, 10 hits to 6 for Atlanta.
10-6.
And after Chris Sale looked dominant through the first 2 innings of this game, his pitch count was relatively low, and he was getting every freaking call, especially against righties with that breaking ball. That was basically in the other batter's box. That was consistently being called for a strike. It was ridiculous. But they were able to get his pitch count up, and they were able to run him out of this game after 5 innings. So overall, they didn't have that bad of a day offensively speaking. It's just, when they had opportunities, they had another opportunity in the 9th with a couple runners on, nobody out, and they just couldn't really do anything with that. So again, I don't want to applaud the Mariners offense today. They didn't get the job done ultimately, but they also, I wouldn't say that they were the problem today either.
Sure. They weren't part of the solution, but
no.
Overall, this is probably the best the offense has looked in the entire series. Which again, not a high bar to clear by any stretch.
Julio 3 for 5 today. You'll take that. 3 hard hit balls. He had a double today, which is great to see him actually slug a little bit. Sebi Zavala with a multi-hit game. I mean, that's ridiculous. Both of those against Chris Sale too. Go figure. But yeah, again, it's just they couldn't take advantage of those opportunities when they set themselves up. But
it was a really weird. The Mariners played this game we already won the series. We don't really care about this one. You look at the lineup. You look at not using Garver. Why would you not give Cal Raleigh 2 days off in a row? He's not even good from the right side. Just let Mitch Garver hit. I don't understand.
That was weird.
So I really don't understand. It's like they wanted.
There was also that weird sequence where it was the 8th inning. Urias, they let Urias hit against the righty against Joe Jimenez, and then they pinch hit Josh Rojas for Sam Haggerty instead of pinch hitting Rojas for Urias and then pinch hitting Raley for Haggerty, or vice versa. Right? It doesn't really matter, but
it was like a hit or two late.
Yeah, and then they pinch hit Raley for Zavala, which, all right, if Garver's not available under any circumstance, then fine. But ideally there, you would go Rojas for Arias, Rayleigh for Haggerty, and then Garver for Zavala.
Right.
And then sacrifice the DH, I guess, and have Raleigh catch.
Right. And then the way they did it, what it sets up is that Rojas has to stay in the game now and play left field because they have to lose the DH, which means Raleigh has to catch. So yeah, like they just did everything a little bit weird today. It was a really weird lineup construction. It was a couple guys, they had an opportunity to give full days off. Like if you want to use a day like today, a getaway day where you've already clinched the series, like to get a guy a full day rest, take advantage, get a couple of guys out because the Mariners absolutely can. They could have given Cal Raleigh a full day off. They could have given Mitch Haniger a full day off, and they could have given Rivas some at bats, which he hasn't gotten a ton of since his call up. And so, it's just about collecting data on Rivas right now, but they weren't willing to do any of that today. But yet they didn't really manage the game late like they thought they had a chance to win. I don't understand Cal Raleigh being in the lineup today. I don't understand Haniger playing in the field today. At the very least, DH him. I don't understand Garver being on the bench. I don't get what they did today. Just kind of a weird, like a lot of weird decisions.
It very much came off as like, hey, we won the series against one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team in baseball.
Like we're cool with
what. Yeah, we're cool with whatever happens in Game 3. If we win, great. If we don't, oh well.
Yeah, it was just very oddly managed. Which I guess shouldn't be too big of a surprise because Scott went all out to win last night's game, and that ended up being the right decision.
Right, and I wonder if that also kind of played a role in like we'll just see what happens today because like Munoz is not available, Stanek's probably not available. It's probably Spire and Sauce and Thornton and Sauce pitched today.
It was just weird.
Both had another good inning against the top of the order. Struck out Acuna. Yep. Acuna looks lost right now. Like they smoked Acuna for the most part in the series.
Mostly on just fastballs too.
Yeah.
Acuna is struggling more than Julio.
Yeah, he's off to a pretty bad start. Olsen's not off to a great start either.
Neither is Riley.
Yeah.
And yet they were the best team in baseball coming into the series by record. Yeah. So it goes to show you how deep that team is.
That team is very deep.
Stacked.
And it's pretty remarkable that the Mariners were able to take 2 or 3 from them nevertheless. So you got to feel pretty good about yourselves coming out of the series despite what happened today. We're going to keep with it for today's game and talk a little bit about Emerson Hancock, and then we're going to look at last night's game and Luis Castillo's start in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by DoorDash and PrizePicks. Want to make mom smile? Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and a whole lot more. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduce service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee and terms apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Spring training is over and baseball season is in full swing. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. You can also get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during the postseason. Download PrizePicks today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the game. Mariners will get back after it on Friday down in Houston. You can catch all the action between the Mariners and the Astros on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. So let's talk about Emerson Hancock today. Weird start for him. 5 runs credited to him, but only one of those earned because of some of the issues that we talked about in the first segment. The first couple innings were pretty interesting. He walked 2 guys in the first inning, but struck out 3. Was looking pretty good, and then got a quick inning in the second inning. But then his command kind of took a dive from that point forward, and Emerson Hancock, without quality command and control, not going to be effective. And things started to kind of unravel. He ends up finishing the day with 4 walks. And ends up only going 3 2/3 innings. Give up quite a few hard hit balls in this one. What did you make of Hancock's start? Which, by the way, might be his last start.
Yeah. It was not as good as the box score would indicate, but also not as bad as the final score might indicate, if that makes sense. So Hancock, he actually got quite a few whiffs today, particularly for him.
The slider was actually pretty good today.
It was down almost 4 miles an hour on the average. So it appears maybe he's made a tweak with that slider. Maybe we saw George Kirby do something similar where he kind of took velo off of the slider to make it a little bit loopier. Or did he throw it harder? I can't remember. But whatever. We've already seen one Mariners starter tweak his slider, and now it kind of looks like Emerson's starting to do the same. I mean, a 3.5 mile per hour drop on any pitch from one start to the next, that feels intentional, right? Like that's not just, I mean, that feels like they're trying to do something there.
Well, especially when the velo is pretty much the same on all of his other offerings.
Right. And he actually got, 3 whiffs on 8 swings on the slider, 38%. That's pretty good. No hard hit balls on that pitch either. So the slider was actually really interesting. But he did manage to get, 4 whiffs on the 4-seamer. That's something. And he got 2 whiffs on 6 swings on the sinker. The changeup he got a couple whiffs on 5 swings. Like he actually generated decent number of whiffs. I mean, 29%. It doesn't seem great because you look at what the Mariners have done over the last week. But that's for Hancock. That's really good. Like that is about as good as you can hope for Hancock. So I actually think his stuff was pretty decent today. His control and command were both 45 grade, maybe even 40 grade. And this is what we've talked about, right? When we've had the Wu versus Hancock discussion, is that like, if Hancock doesn't have 60 control and command, he's susceptible to starts like this because his stuff, even when it's good for him on the day, isn't very good. Yeah. So today is just kind of a perfect example of like why it's a no-brainer to put Wu back in the rotation, because Wu with 45 control and command is going to give you more than Hancock.
He can still survive.
The same.
He can survive.
Right. And so, and like, again, we could argue that Hancock did survive today. Like, he only
it's just Wu has a better chance to survive it. I think that's a better way of putting it.
Right. Now, again, the slider is interesting. It's something that, we've talked about, like, he needs a quality secondary pitch, and the changeup could be that, but he doesn't really throw it a ton. What's going to pop here? And the fastball, he's gotten some whiffs on it in his time this year. He's somehow it's not it. I don't think I've underestimated how good the fastball is. To me, that looks like a 40-45 grade fastball. Like,
so
but
it's a very straight pitch.
Right. But he's getting a fair amount of whiffs on it for just a as straight as it is. Like, there's not a lot of deception. It's not 98 miles an hour.
I don't know if the data backs this up, but it does seem like he's getting more rise out of the fastball the last couple of outings.
Yeah, it's a little tough to say.
I don't know if that's just like the camera angle or what.
Sure.
But
today the vertical break on it was about his yearly average on the vertical break on the 4-seamer is 18. Today the average was 17. So a little bit more downward motion on it. But yeah, it's not like he throws it from a high angle like Chris Young, and he would just throw it at that top line from 6'9". Like, there's nothing about the fastball that when I watch Hancock, I go like, oh yeah, that's a legitimate major league fastball. Nothing. It doesn't move a ton, but He throws it but the last few starts he's thrown it with such good command. He was splitting the corners with it.
Yeah.
That even an average fastball, splitting corners is going to be an effective pitch.
Yeah.
So,
and even today it was fairly effective.
Yeah. I mean, again, 21% whiff rate, not great. 8 foul balls, 7 of them put in play on 19 swings.
No. But there were a few plate appearances where it was working for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it was very much a plate appearance by plate appearance basis.
Right.
For
wasn't
Hancock.
A lot of consistency.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
And that's again the problem. Is control and command. If he's walking 4 guys in a game, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
He is not going to be able to pitch around that often.
Right.
And today again the Haniger error, and then the triple that Luke Raley, for example, probably makes that catch. We're not talking about like having to have an elite right fielder to make that play. You just have to have a decent just solid average one, and he's probably out of that inning.
Yeah.
But he still walked 4 guys. He still gave up a lot of hard contact. So it was a very kind of mix and match type of start for Hancock, where at times he looked really solid, like he had been the last 3 or 4 times out. At times he looked really bad. He fell behind. He piped a couple pitches that he got away with. Like Hancock, again, it was 40 command, 40 control. I think like 4 walks and 3 2/3. That's 40 control. Like you can't go higher than that. So it doesn't work. Hancock has to be at least 50 to survive. And we've talked about how Hancock can kind of like work his way through a lineup, and he can kind of grit it out and tough it out and grind it out against good lineups. And that's his best tool right now. It's just kind of the mental side of pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if he can't put the ball where he wants it to, his margin for error is 0. Like it's literally 0. So he's going to get roughed up. And so again, tonight, it's really easy to point to Haniger and be like, well, he was better than that, blah, blah, blah. Took him 77 pitches to get through 3 2/3. He walked 4 guys. He fell behind. He's gotten to a lot of 3-ball counts today. So it's kind of weird.
Obviously, the Braves are an incredibly talented lineup. Yeah. They were going to get theirs at some point in this series. Like it was going to happen. Like I don't care who you are, what team you are. Like the Braves at some point, one way or the other, they're going to get theirs. So I feel like some of that is just part of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say so. So I mean, like again, Hancock, we'll see. I think sending him down is actually going to be really good. I'm interested to see the slider because that jumps out the page right now. Is not only was the slider significantly slower, he got significantly more value out of that pitch today. So maybe that's something to watch.
And that's been the interesting thing about the last few of his starts. There's been these like little discoveries in each of these starts. It's like, oh, the command and the control is taking a job. Oh, the velo is a bit more consistent. Oh, the slider looks a bit different and it's effective. So, again, Logan Gilbert said to Ryan Roland-Smith a week or 2 ago, like Emerson Hancock reminds him a lot of himself and the way that he views the game, approaches the game. And we know Logan's a tinkerer, and Logan is deep into analytics. And if Gilbert thinks that Hancock's a lot like him, then, one would assume that Hancock's also a tinkerer. He's also deep into the analytics, and he's constantly trying to refine himself. So that to me is interesting, and that has shown up so far over the last few starts. So I'm interested to see once he goes back down to Tacoma and is in an environment where he can experiment more and work on things more, what he can do. So this is probably the most excited I've been about Emerson Hancock in the last couple years. So speaking of the starting pitching, let's talk about La Piedra, Luis Castillo. He looked really good last night. Go over his start in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners postgame show is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I'm a very competitive person, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. But if not, it's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the game. Once again, Mariners will get back after it on Friday down in Houston. You can catch all the action between the M's and the Astros on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. So we've talked about today's loss. Now let's talk about last night's series clinching win. And a big part of that was Luis Castillo, who went 7 innings strong, just 3 hits allowed, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts on 103 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he's back, right?
Like he never left. So return of the Rock. But yeah, he was really good. And it was just kind of classic Luis. It was fastball slider. Although the changeup shouldn't be slept on. He threw 9 of them and he got 3 whiffs on 5 swings on that pitch. So it was definitely a valiant third pitch, but last night it was just fastball slider. Bet you can't hit it. Told you so. Go sit down. It was just filth. And it was particular, the slider was absolutely filthy last night. 29 sliders, 13 swings, 6 whiffs, 46% whiff rate on that pitch, 4 called strikes as well. It wasn't just a pitch that he got guys to chase. He threw it for strikes. So that is a really good rate. I mean, 29 sliders, 17 of them for strikes, 6 of them for whiffs. Like that is a great ratio. But yeah, the fastball was just electric. 36 swings on that pitch, 10 whiffs, 28%, pretty good for a 4-seamer. Also 6 called strikes, 15 fouls, 11 balls put in play. Average exit velo of those 89.3. So Castillo was really good. Even when he fell behind 3-0 or 3-1 to a couple hitters, he battled back and he put guys away. He dominated Ronald Acuna Jr. like most Mariners pitchers did this series, which is, not something I would have expected, but he's slumping a little bit right now and the Mariners are pitching really well right now. So probably should have seen it coming.
You played against them at the right time.
Yeah. You saw this team at the right time, although again, they were still the best record in baseball when they came in at the start of the series. So even though, Acuna and Riley and Olsen are really kind of, trying to feel themselves out right now, Albies and Ozuna and Harris and Darno, like they're all playing out really well right now. So
yeah, look, at the end of the day, you took series from the defending World Series champs, the defending NL champs, and arguably the best team in all of baseball.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It's pretty darn good. You went 6-3 combined against those 3 teams. That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, things don't really get a ton easier coming up on the road trip. The Astros are playing a little bit better lately, and they got Fromber back. Christian Javier might also be back. We're going to see Fromber in the second game. It might be Javier in the third game. That's TBD right now for the Astros. And then after that, you go to Minnesota, and the Twins just won their 10th in a row. So they're playing really good
the only team
baseball.
hotter than you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the tests keep coming for the Mariners is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule for the next, we're about halfway through a really difficult stretch of the schedule, and the Mariners are not only surviving, they're thriving right now. And that's thanks to the elite pitching performance. Even today, they give up 5 runs, 1 earned.
Yeah.
And this, again, they threw out their worst starter. They threw out their worst guys in their bullpen against a really good team, and they gave up 1 earned run. The pitching's on a roll right now, but at some point that's going to stop. You're going to have to score runs. Yes, they're not only surviving the stretch right now, they're thriving in it. But if that's going to continue, the offense has to pick up the slack, because at some point the pitching staff's back will break from carrying this team as far as they can. And at that point, the offense has to step up a little bit and win a few games for their pitchers until the pitchers can get back on track. So for now, pitching's looking great. It's hard not to feel really good going into any series against any team. You feel like you have the pitching advantage every single night. But at some point, the offense has got to step up, and Houston's a pretty good place to do it. It's a good park to hit in. So we'll see what they do.
You were 6-1 down there last year.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of got that demon You kind of exercise that demon, and now you get a chance to go down and not really bury the Astros. It's still so early.
Yeah.
But if you go down there and you sweep them, like they're at that point, what, 7-8 games back of you at that point? Like,
Mhm.
you know,
And that would
there's
feel
plenty
like
of
a
time to catch
real
up.
statement too.
Right.
It's like,
Exactly.
look, times have changed.
So again, I'm not expecting a sweep. I never do.
No.
But go down there, find a way to win the series. I expect them to all to be close games. They're not going to roll over for you. Like you said, they're actually playing really good. Well, not really good. They've started to play better baseball. And
Their bullpen is still a problem right now.
Right.
But
And, they beat up on the Rockies a couple games in an extreme hitters environment. So whatever. But
their offense has been fantastic, though, for the most part.
right. Tucker is crushing the ball right now. Altuve is still really good. Like
Pena is off to a really good start.
Yeah.
We know what Jordan can do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, again, we know the Astros have a good roster.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be a dogfight. You get the day off, you go down there, find a way to win 2 of 3, and head off to Minnesota and try to do the same. That's kind of the game plan, the mantra, right? Just win series, knowing that eventually you're going to lose a series, but let's not get swept. Let's just find a way, even when we play poorly, to win 1 of the 3 games and just move on to the next one and try and reverse that trend. So Mariners playing some pretty good ball right now, and they'll have to continue to play that if they want to, not only maintain their first place position in the American League West, like that's an actual thing on May 1st, but if they want to maintain kind of this relative hot start, put more dirt in the hole so that they, when they start to fall, they don't fall all the way down. Like, it's nice to just kind of stack wins right now, particularly when your offense isn't performing like it needs to. So hopefully they can continue to do it, but it should be a fun series down in Houston.
So real quick before we get out of here, there was some organizational news today that I just want to quickly address before we get a bunch of questions about it. I know you don't want to even talk about it because at the end of the day, it's pretty much a big nothing burger. But the Mariners did announce that Brad Smith and Kathy Suris Smith have joined the ownership group. But that, according to Ryan Divish, is a pretty small stake for both Brad and Kathy, as Colby promptly changes his lighting to red. So for as intriguing as it might be to hear that, hey, new people are joining the ownership group, and one of them is currently the sitting president of Microsoft. It's a pretty small stake for the both of them. So I highly doubt that this is going to have any sort of impact on the Mariners and how they operate moving forward.
It's just rich people buying into a cash cow, the safest investment they'll ever make, because there's a 0% chance they'll ever lose money on their investment. Yeah.
So that's pretty much all it was at the end of the day. So nothing earth-shattering, nothing really significant to talk about on that front, but did want to address it because I was sure we were going to get questions about it. I'm sure you guys would want us to talk about it at least a little bit, but pretty much, again, just a giant nothing burger on that front. All right, anything else before we get out of here?
No.
All right, cool. You don't want to wish me a happy birthday? Colby wanted me to let you guys know. Yeah, Colby wanted me to let you guys know that he did wish me a happy birthday earlier today via text in a very Colby way. But he did technically wish me a happy birthday. No, here, actually, I'll show it to the people. I'll show them.
You got to be careful, though, because we have other text in between there.
No.
And we'll get demonetized if you throw up your swearing and whatnot.
That's what he sent me.
Mm-hmm. It is indeed a statement of fact.
People listening on audio, head on over to YouTube if you want to find out what Colby sent me for my birthday.
It's interesting. We have to cut like 10 minutes out of this episode, but Ty had to make time to show that picture. So that's right. That's something. Just wait until he gets his birthday gift from me, guys. Right now, it's kind of stuck at customs since we live in different countries, but then you'll see how happy of a birthday I wish Ty, with monetary value to prove it. I had them send the receipt too.
That's right. Colby is trying to buy my love, is what he's saying.
First of all, I don't need to buy your love. I know you already love me. Like, this is an undisputed fact. Even though you won't come visit me ever,
right?
Everybody loves me, but especially you.
And especially the comment section. I'm sure they really loved you after your rant about Mitch Haniger today. All right. That's going to do it for our show.
You can tell
Before we get out of here.
Mitch agreed.
It's true. It's true. Go check the quotes, folks. You got a problem with what Colby said. Mitch owned up to it as well. Mitch was very critical of himself after this game, as you would expect from a leader like Mitch. Anywho, before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.